Imagine looking into a mirror and seeing a face that feels unfamiliar. Not because time has passed, but because in a single afternoon, everything you believed about your future disappeared. The life you imagined, the plans you carried, the person you thought you were becoming, all replaced by one haunting question: who am I now? For Turia Pitt, that question arrived after a wall of fire changed her life forever. But this is not simply a story about surviving a bushfire. It is a story about rebuilding a life when everything familiar has been taken away. Before the accident, Turia's life was full of momentum. Young, adventurous, and driven, she worked as a mining engineer in Australia while embracing endurance sports that pushed her to her limits. Long races and rugged landscapes weren't obstacles to avoid. They were challenges she welcomed. Like most of us, she believed tomorrow would look a little like today. A little harder, a little better, another step toward the future she was building. Then came September 2011. An ultramarathon through the remote Kimberley region of Western Australia. It seemed like just another test of endurance. At first, the race unfolded as expected. Runners spread across the rugged landscape, each focused on the miles ahead. But beyond the course, conditions were changing. The land had grown dangerously dry. The heat was rising, and an invisible threat was gathering strength. Then, the first sign of danger appeared. At first, it was only unsettling. Then visibility began to fade. What had started as an endurance race was becoming a fight for survival. Confusion spread across the course. A bushfire had erupted nearby, and it was moving far faster than anyone expected. Within moments, the race no longer mattered. Survival did. The open wilderness suddenly felt like a trap. Smoke swallowed the horizon. The heat became overwhelming. With every passing second, the fire closed the distance. In disasters like these, people imagine there will be time. Time to think, time to choose, time to escape, but reality often moves much faster. Before you fully understand what's happening, your life has already changed. Turia found herself surrounded by conditions that were rapidly becoming impossible. The flames closed in, the heat was unbearable, and one terrifying truth became impossible to ignore. She might not survive. Somehow, she escaped, but survival came at an unimaginable cost. By the time rescuers reached her, burns covered approximately 65% of her body. Her injuries were catastrophic. Doctors would soon begin a desperate fight to save her life. The fire was over, but for Turia Pitt, the hardest battle had only just begun. Her injuries were devastating. Burns covered much of her body, and every hour brought new uncertainty. To give her the best chance of survival, they placed her into a medically induced coma. For weeks, she remained suspended between life and death. While she slept, others waited. Her family, her friends, and Michael Hoskin, the man who loved her. No one knew what the future would hold. In truth, no one knew if there would be a future at all. Then, after more than a month, Turia opened her eyes. For the people gathered around her, it was a moment of overwhelming relief. She had survived, but surviving was only the beginning. The months that followed became a relentless cycle of surgeries, skin grafts, rehabilitation, and pain. Over the years, She would undergo hundreds of procedures as doctors worked to restore as much as they could. But some injuries, however, could never be undone. She lost fingers. Large areas of her skin were permanently damaged, and the body she had once trusted no longer responded the way it once had. Before the fire, running had been part of who she was. Now, even ordinary tasks demanded extraordinary effort. Doctors warned she might never run again. It wasn't just the loss of an ability. It felt like the loss of an identity, and that raised a question no surgery could answer. Who was she now? Recovery isn't measured only by healed wounds. Sometimes the deepest healing happens where no one else can see it. As the months passed, Turia faced a reality that every survivor eventually confronts. The person she had been before the fire was gone. One day, standing before a mirror, she was forced to meet someone new. The scars, the skin grafts, the face staring back at her told a story she hadn't chosen. For anyone, moments like these raise difficult questions. Can I still be happy? Can I still be loved? Can I still build a meaningful life? These are not questions medicine can answer. They can only be answered by the way we choose to live. Slowly, Turia began to understand something profound. Acceptance is not pretending the fire never happened. It is refusing to let that moment define every day that follows. Because the more energy we spend fighting the past, the less we have to build the future. And that future began with the people who refused to let her face it alone. Throughout every surgery, every setback, and every uncertain day, Michael remained by her side. His commitment never seemed to waver. When so much had changed, his presence became a quiet reminder of something the fire could never take away: her worth. Years later, many would describe their relationship as an extraordinary love story. And it is. But it is also a reminder that real love sees the person, not the scars. Eventually, Turia stopped asking how to get her old life back. Instead, she began asking a different question. What can I do with the life I still have? That single question changed everything. The future she had imagined was gone, but another future was waiting to be built. Step by step, she began moving forward. She returned to athletic challenges. She became an author, a speaker, and a source of hope for people facing struggles of their own. Not because the fire had been erased, but because it no longer had the final word. Away from the spotlight, life continued to unfold. Michael remained beside her. The couple married. They built a family, and together they created new memories that were no longer defined by the day everything changed. Looking at Turia's life today, it's easy to admire her resilience, her courage, her determination, but perhaps the greatest lesson her story offers is something quieter. Acceptance, not surrender, not giving up. Acceptance. The willingness to face reality and build from there, because life changes all of us. Maybe not through fire, but through loss, illness, failure, disappointment. Sooner or later, we all find ourselves standing between the life we imagined and the life that remains. When that moment comes, we have a choice. We can spend our lives trying to reclaim what was, or we can begin discovering what is still possible. The fire changed Turia Pitt's life forever. There is no denying that. Some scars remained. Some losses remained. But another truth emerged alongside them. The fire changed her life. It did not end it. And maybe that is what courage truly is. Not the absence of fear, not the certainty of success, but the decision to keep walking into an uncertain future, believing that life can still be beautiful there. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is stop asking life to be what it was and start building with what remains. Because sometimes that is where a new life begins. This is the power of pain, where broken stories become unbreakable strength. Thank you for watching.